What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, making a video that I never quite frankly thought that I would ever make. And we're going to talk about how, in my personal opinion so far, the tech card of the format is a Gem Knight card. Once again, I'm going to say the tech card of the format has proven thus far to be a Gem Knight card. And it's not like a card that kind of benefits Gem Knights. Brilliant Fusion is straight up Gem Knight support, 100%. It was made for Gem Knights and nothing else, but it has, it's pretty much bled into a whole bunch of other decks. And it's fascinating to me because Gem Knights, even like when they were new right out of the dual terminal, they were never really that good. And then Shadows were kind of like an evolution of Gem Knights, and they just like, it was like, wow. So this is what this deck could have been if it just would have been built a little, if Konami had just made it a little bit better. Shadows are what Gem Knights could have been, but now I guess Gem Knights are getting their time in the sun, I guess more or less so as like a little tech engine. So now the first time that I saw Brilliant Fusion being played in a non-Gem Knight deck, it was in DZeep's regional top 8 Madoche or Gem Knight Madoche deck, and I was like, well, that's interesting. How do Gem Knights and Madoches work together like at all? I mean, they seem like they have completely different win conditions. Like one wants to exceed, the other one wants to fusion. Madoches all go back to the deck. Gem Knights activate in the graveyard. So I'm just like, how do these things really work? And then he kind of explained how, you know, Brilliant Fusion tied everything together, and then you add the Clown engine, and it's like, it kind of makes sense. Now we know from a couple of months ago how strong the Clown engine is, and I'm not even talking about performages, and you know, we'll get into that later. I'm just talking about this 3-card engine, which I consider to be highly splashable. We saw that with Shadows, we saw that with Necros, both of them when they, you know, well, mainly Necros when they lost a couple of cards last format. Players were just like, all right, well, we'll just add these in and we'll be able to make exceeds, and we'll be able to, you know, not get OTK'd ever because we have Valkyrus, plus we have Damage Juggler, and this will give us a little more plays when we don't necessarily have our ritual monsters. Now we can make exceeds even easier. And it's really come to fruition that this is one of the strongest mini engines, very similar to like Trap Tricks. Very strong mini engine that is like pretty splashable. But now, you know, players have figured out the continuity between Brilliant Fusion and the Clown engine, and it doesn't make a lot of sense at first, but then when you look at all the synergy that it has together, and then when you look at what it can do for a deck like you know, Performages and Pals, it's like, wow, it seems dumb not to run it, because I've seen it, and maybe you haven't been keeping up, but you know, we're only a couple of weeks into the format. There's obviously the regional circuit. There was a ARG event that just happened over the weekend, but I mean, maybe you even just play on YGO Pro or, you know, Dev Pro, Dueling Network. I'm sure that you've seen this pop up in a few decks. I mean, you're talking Madoche, Necros, you know, Performages and Pals. It seems to be everywhere, and you know, a lot of it has to do with the fact that this is kind of like, in this format, it's kind of like a Foolish Burial on crack that just lets you search your deck for a whole bunch of things. It's always gonna, like, Brilliant Fusion is going to be that 1-for-1 because like, if nothing else, it's gonna put a monster on board. Granted, you know, she doesn't get any attack points because she summoned 0/0, and there will be some rare occasions where, you know, maybe you have like an MST and, you know, she's got 2300 attack, and your opponent is playing a deck that like is in Infernoids or something, so you're just like, well, screw it, I'm not gonna ever use this MST. I'm just gonna pitch it. I'm gonna, you know, make I'm gonna make her attack go to its regular 2300, and I might end up killing somebody. So that always is an option. But generally, you're using it not just to get her on the board, as she serves as a potential, you know, chump blocker. And when you do summon her, if she does die, you can soul charge her back for some rank 5 plays, which, you know, your deck might run some level 5s like Madoche. They run Pudding Cess. Well, some of them do, some of them don't, but that's besides the points. A lot of it has to do with the fact that you just get to dump cards in the graveyard. A lot of this engine is really good when it, you know, you're able to just dump it in the graveyard. We know that Trick Clown, pay 1,000 life points, you can get Trick Clown right back, which means that you get a really easy setup for a rank 4 play. Just, I would advise not detaching the Trick Clown that turn, as you've already used it. So, you know, if you can help it, don't detach the Trick Clown, but you get easy rank 4 plays. And then like Damage Juggler, and this is why the combo is so good, because I used to think, well, why don't people just max C, because usually they go ham. But the thing is, if somebody activates Brilliant Fusion and you max C them, they're not going to dump Trick Clown, because they would think, well, you know, I don't want to give my opponent one card for the Trick Clown, and then one card for my Gem Knight Fusion. I'm not going to do that. So what they'll do is they'll just send Damage Juggler to the graveyard, and then they'll just use Damage Juggler's search ability. And at first it was like, okay, well, you know, this only works for a couple of cards, even though these two clowns are really good in their own rights. But now when you have this being main decked in Performages and Pals, like, I mean, shit, you can search like everything. I mean, you can search any of the Performages, so it's like, it's crazy in that deck. Now there are some things about it that, you know, aren't particularly great. It's very similar to, you know, having to run having to run the vanilla driver in Psy-Frames, or having to run Caboozles in Dino Rabbit. You do have to run Garnet, and if Garnet isn't in your deck, I don't believe you can even use Brilliant Fusion, which is why I saw some people that only ran one copy of Garnet, and I'm like, well, what if you draw it in your opening hand and then you draw like this, and then like 2 turns later you draw this? I mean, that just seems like it would be a lot of work to like find some value out of this. So I mean, I would run like 2 of them. But I mean, even if you do draw this in the early game, you can still, what a lot of decks are doing is they're just going to Pendulum Summon it. Like in your hand, it's just another level 4. So if you're playing Performages and Pals, or you're playing like another Pendulum based deck, like, I don't know, maybe you splash all this crap in Magispectors, you're going to be able to Pendulum Summon level 4s anyway. So this is just another level 4 that can serve as, you know, an Exceed Maker for a cast down. And then when it's in your graveyard, you know, if you can't Digestal Emerald it back into your deck, you can always use it for like Norden or something like that. So it's actually not that terrible, you know, as it just, and it's actually a legitimate beat stick too. 1900 isn't too bad, especially considering you can't Phoenix Chain it, although Phoenix Chain isn't as popular as it once was. And ironically enough, you see that people have really caught on to it. It's $10. A card from the Dual Terminal this is Dual Terminal 2, by the way. A card from Dual Terminal 2 that never saw high levels of competitive play is now $10, and it's a freaking vanilla 1900. Wrap your head around that. So I want to know what you guys think of this engine. Do you guys think that this is more of a fad? Do you guys think that this is going to phase out? I don't think so, because this engine has just been like, this engine and the fact that it works so well with this, it's just been proven to be way too good. And then there's always the possibility of the random OTK of, okay, well, your opponent didn't put anything on the board. All right, well, I'm going to Brilliant Fusion. I'm going to get my Trick Clown. I'm going to go for an Exceed off of the Trick Clown. I'm also going to pitch this random spell in my hand that I don't need. Maybe, you know, a Soul Charge, that's something that doesn't let me attack, or a Mystical Space Typhoon, which I'm not going to need. I'm going to get this chick up to, you know, 2300, and I'm just going to like kill you this turn. So I think that this engine is good, and I mean, it really makes something like Foolish Burial like completely unnecessary in these decks. You know, like Foolish Burial could be, it used to be a pretty decent card. You can dump any of these guys, you could dump your Trick Clown, get it back, dump your Damage Juggler, search. But now that you've got, you know, Brilliant Fusion, which does that and more, I don't really ever see a point of this. I can't think of any ways to put this back in your hand outside of like Zephyros, but maybe there is a way. But again, I don't believe you can activate Brilliant Fusion if you don't have any Garnets in your like deck, because like, what are you sending to the graveyard? What are you using as materials? I don't think you can use it. But I find this to be pretty interesting, and if you look at the events, like, people are main decking 3 of these in a lot of decks. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching as always.